Hello everyone, and welcome to my little opinion piece when it comes to Before the Storm, as well as the story of Battle for Azeroth. I've decided to do this live on stream, because it gives me an opportunity to not only spew my opinion out on the internet, but also get a little bit of, feedback from the chat room. So yeah, I figured let's just talk about what's going down, and the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, when it comes to Before the Storm, what I really appreciated about it is the way it took its time to develop the storyline. It definitely gave proper time to the Forsaken peace meeting between humans and Forsaken. It wasn't just like, look, we have a cool idea and we're going to do it. No, they gave examples, they gave the time for it. It was very emotional at times. Really emotional at times even. Which I really appreciate. But there are definitely some things that also deserve a bit more time, in my opinion. A prime example would be Anduin's leadership when it comes to the Alliance of Lordaeron. Oh, sorry, not the Alliance of Lordaeron. When it comes to the Alliance, him being the High King. For those unaware, Varian was placed in that position when Tirana had a vision from Elune. And ever since he became the High King, the Alliance just quickly fell in line. Varian could do no wrong. And they were very unified. So when Varian died, they actually gave a lot of opportunity to get some drama going within the Alliance, something that I believe is very much needed. But instead what we see is Anduin steps up. Anduin is the High King. He has plans and ideas in mind, which the other leaders actively disagree with. And yet they still follow his lead. Like, who voted him in to be this leader? Of course, you also imagine that someone like Anduin would stumble and fall in his role as leadership. Of course, he was a voice of reason when it came to Varian. He was definitely a better leader than Varian at times. But he also made his mistakes, you know? He also made his mistakes, and I was actually really hoping to see that. But instead, we get Boy Wonder Anduin, who just steps up to the plate and says, I'm the leader now, and we're gonna follow what I'm doing. Speaking of drama, we also have, for example, Magni Bronzebeard waking up. And I really had a lot of hope when it came to Magni that there was going to be some drama amongst the Council of Three Hammers. With his daughter. Like, this is Magni showing up again after being gone for who knows how long. How are they going to respond to it? And it's just Magni shows up. He speaks for the world. He goes out to warn the world. And that's about it. So I kind of feel that whenever there are opportunities for drama within the Alliance, discontent, some conflict, they just ride it away with one line. Stormheim, Greymane taking that mission into Stormheim way further than Anduin ever planned it to go. Just one line. Greymane is rebuked by Anduin, and that's the end of it. Why not work with it? Why not have conflict between Anduin and Greymane? Why not Greymane step up to the plate, step up for himself, and be like, look, you can reprimand me all you want, but this and this was going on there, this and this is why I made the decisions. Get a little bit of conflict going instead of, yeah, we are the Alliance, we are unified, and this is how we're going to go down. Now, you hear me talk a lot about what's going on the Alliance side, because another big point of critique when it comes to Before the Storm is a very severe lack when it comes to Horde development. We get a clear understanding as to what Sylvanas is doing. Like, she touches Azeroth and she gets these visions of how she would no longer be the Banshee Queen, no longer the War Chief. You know, she would become a goddess and she could make the world kneel to her will. We can see what Sylvanas wants with Azeroth, which is an offensive manner, and we can see what Anduin wants with Azeroth, with a defensive manner. But what about the other leaders? Like, we have Bane that still has communication with Anduin. You could assume that he is more interested in peace, but doesn't really speak out. At least when it came to Garrosh, when it came to Tides of War, at least we saw responses from someone like Bane crying, from Vol'jin speaking out. Hints here and there of what the Horde was thinking, what the Horde was doing. But here it's just like they're characters in the back of a play while Sylvanas takes the front and you follow her storyline. So I felt like the book needed to spend a lot more time on the development of their mindset and give insight on what the other leaders want. And I felt that the book came a bit short on that, to put it lightly. And then a lot of critique that I've seen as well when it comes to the comics that they've released for Battle for Azeroth so far is that it's very Alliance-centric. So if we are going to get Harbinger episodes, like we've done with Legion and whatnot, They better be about the Horde. They better be to get some explanation going. Because otherwise, you know, where's the development, right? Lorfmar Bane supporting Sylvanas and her atrocities doesn't seem right to me. If Lorfmar couldn't tolerate Garrosh, why does he tolerate what Sylvanas is doing? That's exactly the question that I have as well. Like, when it comes to what we see about Azeroth and what we see about Sylvanas' plans, which it all falls in line with her character. Sylvanas has been set up as a character that will do anything and everything in order to stay alive. And for a long while, that worked well from the shadows. Garrosh calling her out, asking her, like, what is the difference between you and the Lich King now? Isn't it obvious, War Chief, I serve the Horde? She was in the shadows, working on her own plans, making sure this was going to stay alive. But then, they made the decision to make her the War Chief, and she goes to the forefront. And she keeps doing what she's been doing. Finding ways to stay alive, doing everything it takes to stay alive. And that's fine for her character. But what about the rest of the Horde? You know, why do the other members with their own morals, with their own compass, with their own motivations, why do they stick with the Banshee Queen? What exactly is going to be the selling point for them to stick with her? Now, I know a lot of people are of the mindset that the Alliance is very hostile when it comes to the Horde. And I definitely agree that there are certain characters amongst the Alliance that could be used as hostile characters. Think, for example, Jaina. Think, for example, Greymane. They could 100% be used. But when it comes to a character like Anduin, they didn't go as far to say, like, I'm going to bring about world peace. But that's pretty much what they said. When he touched Azeroth instead of an offensive matter, he did see the properties, of course. He did see the potential of it. But in his mind, he saw plans on how to heal the world and defend the world and invigorate people and how to inspire people. And then he realized, like, oh yeah, this can also be used for destruction, and it hit him in the gut. And like I said, the Alliance just lines up behind Anduin and does what he has in mind. So in that direction, yeah, I'm not sure if I would agree with that mindset. Anduin is too perfect. Yeah, a little bit. And of course, let's not forget that it is very soon to draw any conclusions when it comes to the story for Battle for Azeroth, because all we have so far is beta, datamine dialogue, and this book, and the comics. But they are promoting a morally grey storyline. And we were discussing this today on Discord as well. They have to make the burning of Teldrassil an inside job to have any hope of having a morally grey storyline. If Teldrassil is truly Sylvanas are doing, then I don't see how they're going to sell it. I really can't see any other way of selling the storyline, because if they do make it so that it's coming from the Alliance side of view, think, for example, I don't know, a Greymane or a Rogers or a random captain that's like, Sylvanas has occupied Teldrassil, we're going to make sure that she's not going to have it, we're going to burn it. In response, Anduin is misinformed. He believes that the Horde is doing it, and that leads into the Siege of Lordaeron. That would give a better dynamic to it. It doesn't make it right, in my opinion. Killing your own troops and resurrecting them doesn't exactly make it right, but it would give a lot better motivation to it rather than, I started this war, oops, I couldn't kill my enemy in one single go, poop, we actually started this, right? Yeah. Despite Sylvanas going for Azeroth first and trying to weaponize it, I think that if the Burning of Teldrassil would be an inside job, not the responsibility of the Horde, I think there would be a lot better storytelling. Rather than, yeah. There it is again, morally grey. Buzzwords, 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 yeah. That's what I'm saying, it reminds me a lot of the Mystic Pandaria days. For those that were around, you might remember how they tried to sell the storyline of the Alliance teaming up with the Horde as they went into the Siege of Orgrimmar. How they tried to sell the questline of the Robot Cat as in, oh yeah, you as the Alliance are going to infiltrate the Horde, you're going to do some damage from within. You're going to spy on them, and it's like, yeah, really? Next to that also, oh god, what was it? The Purge of Dalaran, which was supposed to be this fist-pumping moment for the Alliance. Yeah. No, definitely a fist-pumping moment. What do I think about the Goblin and Gnome couple? I thought they were really cute. At first, I was like, ooh, a Goblin Gnome couple, that's interesting. But I thought they were really cute. Those were the dialogues that actually made me chuckle. Was actually funny. And yeah, I really, really like them. I wonder if they're going to show up in the next expansion, because the bomb that they were attached to, it explodes, but we don't really get a conclusion as to what happens to them. So I wonder if they're there. You made 3 rant videos about the robot cat. Hell yeah. There's already a datamine dialogue from throughout recently about motivations. Basically, Sylvanas really didn't want to attack Teldrassil because of the Azeroth port, which turns out the Azeroth wasn't there yet. No ideas about the tree burning. Correct. Yeah, the tree burning is pretty much the mystery right now. Like, who is going to burn down Teldrassil? And that's going to be a catalyst into this whole war. Like, Before the Storm is not so much to set up the start of the war. It's more so, I imagine, to give an insight into the mindset of Sylvanas and Anduin. And then that side arc of the Forsaken relationships with the Alliance. But it's not so much to set up the war itself. The book mentioned it a couple of times. Sylvanas did not disagree with Garrosh's actions. She just disagreed with his timing. Meaning that she's not afraid to do a bombing of Vladimir. Yet at the same time it also mentions that she's not quite ready for her war. So yeah, it doesn't start in the book, so it's going to start in-game. From in-game we know that the Horde is on a mission through Ashenville towards Teldrassil, where they put their eyes on. And I believe, if I remember correctly from Data My Dialogue, but don't quote me on this, is that they're using the area as a port for Azeroth, as well as a massive source of Azeroth. Apparently Malfurion is a target that they want to kill. And they assume that it's going to break the spirit of the Night Elves if they do so. Apparently they never learned from the lessons of Orgrim Doomhammer, who thought that he could break the spirit of the Alliance by killing their leader. But that's apparently motivation. And then it's kind of up for grabs, like how is it going to go down? Who is actually going to turn the tree into a bonfire, right? I started the fire! Archimonde started the fire! What of Azeroth itself being initially blown up alone, an Alliance called Horde that was just about to invade? Could be a thing. Could definitely be a thing. But here's kind of my problem with the overarching story when it comes to the conflict in Battle for Azeroth. And keep in mind that this is mainly about the conflict, because there are going to be more storylines. It goes back to... oh god, it goes back to the Broken Shore, I imagine. Where we all of a sudden saw an allegiance between Varian and Sylvanas, without any explanation. That then flowed into Legion itself, where there was the Stormheim questing, Alliance versus Horde, Sylvanas versus Greymane, and then the conflict fell flat and wasn't mentioned throughout the entirety of the expansion. So we come home, and now we have Sylvanas' war chief, who has Azeroth, and she's the one to go for it first. She's the one to want to weaponize it. And I know it's an unpopular opinion. I remember when I made the video where I was like, the Horde is the aggressor, or are they? I remember the dislikes, and I'm going to assume that this video is going to get a similar amount. But you know, now we have it in black and white. Who is the aggressor? Well, the Horde goes to Azeroth first and wants to weaponize it. And I've heard the argument of Sylvanas only wants it to, you know, store it for future threats. She wants it because she's afraid of the Alliance. But that's simply incorrect. The book clearly describes that she sees Anduin as this peacekeeper, as easy prey. She sees the Horde as they're going to quickly recover and we're going to wipe out the Alliance. That is how she is going to secure the peace in the world. She is going to wipe out the enemy, whereas Anduin, he is going to secure peace in the world by trying to work together. Like two completely different mindsets. So I think where I was wrong when it comes to the Horde is the aggressor, I think I should have been more specific and say Sylvanas is the aggressor. But then again, there is no development for the other leaders, so for the moment it seems like they just follow her lead, except for Sourfang. So yeah. Oh, look at that. I'm gonna be killed now. I'm gonna join the others that have fallen here during the meeting. I'm gonna join them. And then there was also the argument of, does the Alliance have the right to stop the Horde from going for Azeroth? And in that regard, again, we were talking about this. So, we were talking about this on Discord, and the example that I used was the Divine Bell. The Divine Bell was also this mighty weapon that War Chief Garrosh went for. He hadn't directly used it, but he was planning to use it against the Alliance. And yet at that time, both sides decided that this was too far, that this was not the right thing to go. So if it was bad for Garrosh to do it back then, and we had to stop him, then why is it okay for Sylvanas to go after Azeroth now? Especially when you have somebody like Magni Bronzebeard say, don't go after Azeroth, you're just making a bad thing worse. You're going to kill the planet and we're going to have to find a new one. Stop it. And they still do it. So, yeah. There's that. You should have killed that troll when you had the chance. Yeah, but I didn't want to reach my keyboard. Because she has boobs, I hope there's going to be more to it. But that's, it's kind of a little bit of a disappointed development. I was hoping that there was going to be more dynamic to it. More reasoning in the book besides, you know, I don't want to die, so I'm going to kill everybody. Which is a shitty tactic now that I think about it. Although, maybe she expects Azeroth to be so powerful that she can just instantly wipe out the Alliance. But then again, when you have somebody like Endwin, right? Somebody described as a peacekeeper, shouldn't you be trying to work together with him? Isn't that a better solution than going on the offensive like that? Kind of comes down to Azeroth, I suppose. It did make them super duper smart. Do you think Greymane may have acted on Endwin for the Battle of Lordaeron because he hates Sylvanas so much? Could be a good idea if the Horde wants to blame for Teldrassil. If the Horde wasn't to blame for Teldrassil burning. That's what I'm hoping. That's definitely what I'm hoping. Like, in Before the Storm, even someone like Greymane, he had a lot of trouble accepting a meeting between Forsaken and humans, right? With his history of Gilneas, a lot of trouble with it. But even in the end, someone like Greymane could see, like, you tried, and there were some good reunions in there. Even his perspective shifted, if not just a little bit. But would somebody like Greymane be on the forefront and scream, death to the Horde, look at what they done to Teldrassil? Yeah, absolutely. I really hope Gen is not the one who started the fire. It would risk too much of it for his family and people. Yeah. It's hard to say, ain't it? I'm gonna laugh my ass off if it's just a random captain, though. That elf that we see next to Sylvanas in the promo art. Gonna laugh my ass off with just that elf. Enderman one-shotted the Azeroth tank, didn't he? A little bit. I mean, we weakened it for him. Sylvanas likes peace as much as cows like eating steak. Huh. I'm more interested if the Naru have come to Kalia Menethil as a new chosen one, or if I'm overthinking it. The thought has crossed my mind, Wolgaric. Especially when it comes to the whole child of Shadow and Light. Alonso has called her child many, many times. Alonso being a being of Shadow and Enduin being a being of Light. But when it comes to the child of Shadow and Light, I don't know. I don't know if they want to play around with it, because they did mention during the whole resurrection that she was resurrected purely by the light. Alonso was not a being of Shadow, he was a being of light. And the prophecy of the child of Shadow and Light was aimed at Illidan being this holy angel flying over the battlefield and kicking some Void Lord's booty. I did wonder what the whole point was in making Kalia this undead, holy infused being. And I couldn't get further than being a counterpart to Sylvanas. That's about as far as I got. Which then made me wonder, like, is that their intention? To have somebody ready to replace Sylvanas as the leader of the Forsaken? I can't imagine the player base to be happy with that. Can't imagine. Gonna laugh my ass out if it's still the Twilight Hammer. Oh god, that would be funny. Do I like the whole Chosen One thing? I personally don't. It creates Mary Sue's, Gary Stews. I don't like the Chosen One thing, no. Did the Alliance burn down Teldrassil, or what did you just say? Who was resurrected? Kalia Menethil. We do not know who burns down Teldrassil. And Kalia Menethil was indeed resurrected. During the meeting, how it went down was Kalia went to the meeting. Before the meeting, she had a discussion with Enduin, in which they talked about, would you like the Alliance to wage war? Would you like us to take back Lordaeron for you? To which Kalia said, no, the Forsaken, those that live there right now, they were the people who live there in life. I have no intention of taking back Lordaeron. I'm much better off doing what I've already been doing, which is healing the world, healing the people. She did want to go to the meeting because of her child and her husband. She was hoping to hear word of them during the meeting, that they potentially became Forsaken. And then during the meeting, we had one of the Forsaken walk up to Kalia. He did not want the meeting to end. He was having too much fun with his daughter. And he asked her, like, be there for us now. We need you. And in that moment, Kalia had a choice. She could either forsake them and let them die, or she could rise up, announce herself, and save them. Now, of course, they both died in the end, and she was like, oh yeah, I was never trained in the ways of politics. How could just a foolish girl like myself foresee what Sylvanas would do? And I was reading that, and I heard it from the previews as well, and I was reading it, and I was like, are you for real? You were never trained in the ways of politics. Yeah, no shit. But you can anticipate something like that happening, right? You lead an open rebellion in a field where Sylvanas brought an army of fucking archers. You know that you're not supposed to do that. And you did it anyways, and everybody died, and you're surprised about it. You're lucky that she didn't kill all the humans right there. It's almost similar to the Alliance sieging Lordaeron and not expecting the Blight to be used. It's like, oh no, the Blight's been used. How could we have seen this coming? It's almost like Sylvanas uses the Blight. Yeah, Kalia was an idiot, yeah. She was really, really idiot. Do you think Raytheon would start the fire so the Alliance and Horde would fight so he could unite the world under one banner? Nothing's impossible, right? But he already tried that against the threat of the Legion and already bit him in the ass. I hope with the years that he's been growing, that he's been learning more. So yeah, the Forsaken, by the way, that asked was Porqual Fintalis, which was like a level 35 quest giver in the Undercity, I believe. And he met up with his daughter, and it was really, really sweet. No wonder her father wanted to marry her off, right? You sound a little disappointed with the writing, so the whole Forsaken Rebellion thing is quelled and that's it. Let me make one thing straight, right? I said the same thing in my review. I am not disappointed about the writing. What the story was and what the book tried to tell, I thought was done brilliantly. I love the Goblin interaction. I love the time that it took to build up the Forsaken story arc with the humans. I even love to see a glimpse into the mind of anyone in Sylvanas as they touch Azeroth. I love those parts. So what the story was, what the book did tell, I enjoyed a lot. And I read the book with a lot of fun. What I'm disappointed about is what the book didn't do. And what I'm disappointed about is mainly what we've been seeing in Battle for Azeroth so far. That's what I'm disappointed about. Mainly, like I mentioned, they're dropping opportunities to create drama amongst the Alliance. I would have loved to see the Alliance just for fucking once be the aggressor. Just once. Why couldn't it have been? Instead of Sylvanas touching Azeroth, why couldn't it have been somebody like Jaina, who on her travels found Azeroth and was like, hey look, we got this cool stuff now, let's do it. Why not somebody like Greymane? Why not somebody like Rogers? All of them have every motivation in the world to start a war with the Horde again. But instead they use Sylvanas. Why? Didn't we already do that? Didn't we already do that, Bliss? Have you forgotten about Garrosh? And of course we're not gonna, well, of course I say, most likely we're not gonna end up with a Garrosh. Who knows how the story is going to unfold. There are many, many different directions they can take. They can have Illyria fall to the void. They can have Sylvanas sacrifice herself for the greater good, learning that some things in life are worth dying for. I would be very surprised if we see a Garrosh 2.0, as in Sylvanas put up on the chopping block as the war chief that needs to be taken down. I think best case scenario is Sylvanas sacrificing herself. Which is to say, I would also love somebody like Sylvanas to carry on, but I can't imagine someone like Sylvanas carrying on now. How do you keep her on as a war chief after this, right? She literally resurrected her own troops. If you compare the Siege of Lordaeron cinematic with the Wrathgate cinematic, it's like 1-to-1. So yeah, we're gonna end up with another Arthas. Sylvanas forced to undead back to the Mindless Scourge because she hates their free will. She's gonna be Kerrigan, I've heard that as well. Yeah, I've heard that as well. It's so enjoying to hear you talk about the lore. Thank you very much, Enjoy. Sylvanas is literally the last interesting Horde character. Yeah, I agree. And by that sentence, I just pissed off a whole lot of fans of the other characters. But who do we have? We have Lorfmar, probably the most interesting one. Bane always... I know you're gonna hate me for saying this, but Bane is very bland. Sourfang is cool, but Sourfang is also old. Rokon is apparently the leader of the Trolls. Yeah, not a lot of story in the background. Gallywix is pretty dope. I like Gallywix, but Gallywix is very... You know, Gallywix wants to make money. That's Gallywix. Yeah. And then G Firepaw. Ooh! I was mistaken! That G Firepaw, though. Oh my god, G has the best lore ever. Just because he's old, he's not interesting? No. I said Sourfang is interesting. Sourfang's cool. It's just old. You know, he's sitting on the bench. Quite literally, he is in jail, and he's like, no, I'm cool. I'm done with my adventures. I'll just stay here. What if Rexxar became a leader? I like Rexxar. But then again, would it fit Rexxar's character? I don't know. I find it strange enough that Rexxar returned to the Horde to begin with. Which again leads me to the question, like, why do they stick with the Horde? Same with Eitrigg. Eitrigg literally calls the Alliance tyrants during the Magar recruitment scenario. Why? Someone like Eitrigg has a very solid history when it comes to the humans with Tyrion. So what changed to make him say that? And so far we haven't seen that on the beta quite yet. Not even in Data My Dialogue. So I wonder what that's going to be about. Bane is like Anduin light, just as boring. Yeah, and that's the funny thing. I often get told that I'm an Alliance fanboy, and people are probably right about that. But what they don't seem to get is that I'm not shitting on the Horde. I'm telling the story, and I'm actually bitching about it that I don't get that story. You know? Why doesn't the faction that I play get that storyline? Why do the Alliance always have to be the goody two-shoes, you know? The fucking saviors of the world. I want that Horde storyline, but you are a Horde fanboy, yeah. That's what I always thought. I always thought that I found the Horde storyline to be more interesting. But apparently that's not the case. That's not the case, yeah. Garona saying that he would kill Anduin. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that falls back to development of characters. You can't just write a line on paper that conflicts with the character that has been established and be like, oh, yeah, that's enough. Garona saying, like, oh, yeah, I killed a Rim before. Maybe I should kill another. Like, are you for real? Where is the Allied Darkness? And they have potential, though. They have a lot of potential. The Lightforged are apparently oppressors in an alternate reality. The Void Lords, I mean, they're the fucking Void Lords. The Dark Islands are pretty damn dope. Greymane is hostile, but what we see of him in Battle for Azeroth so far is that he's just a good puppy. Jaina is a hostile one. What we see in Battle for Azeroth is that she reunites with her family and all is fine and good again. Where is it, you know? Where is my goddamn drama? I want my drama! We need a Mechatork hostility, baby! I need Mechatork to be slicing up some fools and just leaving them on the floor to die. That actually happens. Is Valera loyal to the Alliance yet? Nope, still loyal to House Rin. And she is the one who kept up communications between Bane and Anduin, which led to Anduin actually getting the other side of the Broken Shore. And on the battlefield, I thought that was really nice, by the way. On the battlefield, he actually asked Sylvanas, like, did you betray my father? And she mentioned, like, no matter what choice I made on that day, your father's fate was already sealed. Which I found beautiful. I found really, really cool. And he believes her words. So it is because of that communication that there was a different voice amongst the Alliance on what happened. And yeah. And instead of using that communication to her advantage, Sylvanas just tells Bane to stop it. Rather than, you know, sending out some wrong information or trying to manipulate it. No, it's just stop it and we're good. Which then falls back to the Tauren being the first race to actually accept the Forsaken within the Horde. Because if I remember correctly, I don't know what's for the Blood Elves or for the Forsaken, but either one was not accepted by Thrall. I'm pretty sure it was the Blood Elves, and for the Forsaken he just had to be convinced. I find it a bit silly that so many big lore characters that worked across factions in the class hall against the Legion suddenly cut all ties to each other, same. But I wonder if they're going to give a proper explanation to it, because we do see the Order Hall of the Priest used in Before the Storm, which I thought was really, really nice. And they did say, I believe, that instead of the garrisons just leaving behind, that we were going to do something with it. So I hope they got something planned. Isn't the drama going to be the free lies of the Boy King? Well, that's the thing though, Elholm. And that's why I took the example of, remember when they were talking about Robot Cat and how they told us how we were going to be spies and infiltrate the other faction? I feel a very similar thing when it comes to the Whispers of Il'gynoth and Okmot's Journal. Because even if Anduin is lying about something, which might be the burning of Teldrassil, that Sylvanas started this war, that doesn't erase what the other side is doing, right? Not to mention that we don't even know if those whispers are going to play a part or not. It's a lot of fun to speculate with, a lot of fun. But it also feels like dangling in front of you. Like maybe the next thing is gonna be the one that explains it all. Maybe the next thing is gonna be the one that makes it all grey. And that's mainly the reason why I wanted to sit down and talk a little bit about this, because that's what we've been doing Before the Storm as well. We saw all these things go down in Alpha and Beta, and we're like, well, maybe Before the Storm is going to explain it. Maybe that's where they're going to be the grey storyline. And as we can find out, Before the Storm told its own story, but not so much connected to the conflict. So now the question becomes, well, maybe it's going to be the next patch. Maybe it's going to be a pre-event. Maybe it's going to be Teldrassil. Maybe it's going to be the Whispers. Maybe, you know? But I want to see it. And that's why I have concerns so far. But it sounds like Sylvanas wanted to occupy the tree and not burn it. Yes, and that is the question right now. Like, it does sound like Sylvanas wants to occupy Teldrassil to prevent the alliance to the Azeroth and their shipping lanes, if I remember correctly. And then the question becomes, like, why does Teldrassil burn? Is it a similar scenario as we saw in the Siege? As in, they just blight the entire area and make it inhospitable? As in, they are losing their occupation, and instead of handing it back over, they decide to blow it up? Is it going to be somebody on the Alliance side? Is it going to be an accident? Is Azeroth just simply too powerful? That is still up in the air on how Teldrassil burns. And that is, in my opinion, it's going to be a key element on how the rest of the story plays out. I'm very excited to find out who actually burns down Teldrassil. Because, yeah, it's going to define if it's going to be a great storyline or not. Because the burning of Teldrassil then leads into the Siege of Lordaeron. I expected it to be Sylvanas underestimates how powerful Azeroth is and doesn't expect the tree to burn. Maybe. I can understand that you say that you also realize to be the aggressor, but a lot of people I know on the Alliance side don't like to play as the bad guys, as the ones that made something wrong. And I think Blizzard fears that many Alliance wouldn't want to play the expansion being the ones that started it. Maybe. Maybe I should just join the Horde then. That could be a thing. That could be a thing. But aren't people bored of it though so far? Aren't people bored of being, you know, look at us, we're united? I do not know. Howdy, Buck's name. What do you make of Tyrellian's opinion on Zera? What do you mean, Rijun? What do you think will happen with Vol'jin though? What's going to be his part in the story? Apparently his ashes are going to be placed in the Tomb of Kings, and that's about it. We don't find out who burns the tree in the book. Nah, man. No. The book ends with... That's what I said. The book doesn't set up the war. The book sets up the mindset when it comes to Azerites. It ends with the failed meeting between Forsaken and humans, and Kalia resurrected as an unholy undead. Holy undead. We also know that from the Collector's Edition, as well as online, you don't have to buy the Collector's Edition for it, but it's going to be like a hard copy. There's going to be a storyline of Malfurion and Sourfang ending up in a fight and Sylvanas showing up, as well as Forsaken being interrogated, and I think that's going to be the setup into the occupation of Teldrassil. And then the question becomes, what happens next? Some of the same people who don't want drama in the Alliance get mad when the Horde don't want to be the comic book villains to fulfill their view on the Alliance. People mostly will never be bored of that thing, Noble. It's the same as country shouting that they are the best for all the human story. And that's the thing, though. Like, Alliance isn't perfect. It's just when you compare, and I think Doron made a couple of movies on that when it comes to the Alliance and Horde crimes. It's just when you compare what the Alliance has done to what the Horde has done, it just doesn't compare. I think, like, one of the worst things that they mention is Camp Trajo, which was not only an attack with wrong information, everybody was allowed to leave. And only those that stayed behind and picked up arms, they were slaughtered. And you compare that to a bombing of Fedamore, you know? She's all just a setup for Forsaken Paladins. That'd be dope, though. Is Vol'jin a Loa now? Seems like he's back from the dead in a way. I think he shows up as a spirit, right? In which, oh god, what was his name? Not Bonsandi, but the other guy. Zalazane? No, not Zalazane. Or maybe Zalazane. Anyways, that guy that he went through his trials with, he's like, ooh, you're like a Loa now. Fedamore was a peace offer. Uh-huh. Bombing of Fedamore wasn't Horde, it was Garrus's Horde, though. That's also a thing. The Horde has gone under so many changes when it comes to leadership. That it comes a little bit difficult to define, like, is it a Horde or not? It's difficult to say, right? And I still say that the bombing of Fedamore, tactical-wise, it was very smart, very well played. Just the methods used that don't fall in line with the whole honor thing. But then again, look at the Horde right now. When, oh, it was beautiful. I saw the Magar recruitment video that WoW had uploaded, and in the comments, people, the Magar say like, oh yeah. We are the Magar, right? What up? We stand for honor. We're gonna bring honor to the Horde. And in the comments is like, you joined the wrong Horde, mate. It's beautiful. I'm sick of the argument though. Everything that the Horde has done that's bad is always met, but it was this one's Horde, not that one's Horde, or just a specific character. Correct, yeah. Can't win wars with honor, really. Maybe not. Maybe not. But then again, wasn't that always a big theme of the Horde, right? Isn't that what they've been moving away from ever since their first invasion of Azeroth? Which Horde is the best Horde? Thrall, Garrosh, or Sylvanas? Ooh. Ooh, that's a good question. I think Garrosh. I think Garrosh's Horde was the best Horde. Mainly because Garrosh was stepping up to the plate, and he was trying to take land for his people. Like, Thrall was dope as well, don't get me wrong. Thrall was really, really cool. He liberated his people, he reformed the Horde, and he was of the mindset of we can work together with humans. But of course we had a Varian Rin. But when it comes to Garrosh, I think Garrosh's methods is where, you know, he went wrong, as well as excluding the other races. But yeah. Honor was an orc thing, not the Horde thing. Yeah, but the races that joined the Hordes joined the Horde though, right? Isn't that the vow that they made when they joined the Hordes? I believe there's a quest line in Wrath of the Lich King where you get like the Tonka to join the Horde, and they're like, oh yeah, honor, blah blah blah, honor. Are we still running with the hypothesis that Sylvanas was shown a fake afterlife by the old gods, which now motivates her to kill everyone, so she's a victim of manipulation? I still think it's a cool idea. Like, keep in mind, that's just what it is, right? It's an idea, it's speculation. A lot of people have begun to wonder about it, considering that in the comics, it seems that the Void really wants Sylvanas dead. They see her as the true enemy, as they tell it to Illyria. Now, of course, when it comes to that, you could also argue that the Void just wants Illyria to submit, and they will tell her anything and everything in order to get her to, you know, fall to the Void. But maybe there's a truth to it. Maybe the undead are truly a massive enemy to the Void. We do not know. And if they are a massive enemy to the Void, then why do the old gods show Sylvanas that hell and keep her around and make her a war chief, right? Teldrassil burning aside, the Alliance will have the dark moments too, if Yrel is going super fanatical as we've heard. I hope so. But in the case of Yrel, alternate character, alternate reality, 30 years separated from the actual Alliance. Yeah. Do you think that the Lich King may have a hand to play in Battle for Azeroth? I hope so. His daughter is around. His daughter is around, so that's a thing. Undeath is, of course, a theme that they're playing with, so that's a thing. I really hope so. The honor thing is still the identity, but brain dead honor is just that. Stupid. Not saying Sylvanas undead raising is a good alternative, though. Thrall's Horde had a good balance, or at least a decent one. Yeah, you could also argue that if Loktar, Ogar, Victory, and or Death was really such a thing amongst the Horde, then how the hell did we end up with the internment camps to begin with? That could also be argued. What if the old gods want freedom over the Void Lords? It's an idea, that's for sure. Is that Stromgarde keeping it back? It sure is. Kalia is resurrected as an undead, but she isn't with Sylvanas. Nope. Was she the only one resurrected? Yes. The idea behind the resurrection, and of course we're going to do the story before the storm on Monday. in which I also talk about it. But the resurrection happened on this field right here. We had a meeting between Forsaken and humans. Forsaken of the Desolate Council, humans of the Alliance, specifically chosen to reunite with their loved ones. And during that meeting, it went so well that some of the Forsaken didn't want the day to end. So they recognized Kalia, and they asked her to stand with them. And she did. And of course, Sylvanas, she saw her Forsaken deserting her. They were leaving, and that was completely against the rules. So, our beloved Banshee Queen, she told her archers to start mowing down the Forsaken that dared to run away. While at the same time, they also killed those that wanted to come back. The leader of the Desolate Council, Elsie, she loved her Banshee Queen. And the Desolate Council was never created as an organization to take over from Sylvanas. They were just a governing body while Sylvanas was away. And Elsie wanted to come back to her queen, but she was shut down all the same. And the motivation for that is Sylvanas could not let this seed of discontent, this seed of wanting their previous life, grow. Basically, she is given the Forsaken free will, but only when they use the free will to follow her will. It's basically what it comes down to. So all of the Forsaken are mowed down, but only the Forsaken. Sylvanas made sure not to kill the humans, because that was the agreement. And if she had killed any humans, then Anduin would have been full in his right to call a war. Yet at the same time, Sylvanas is full in her right to call a war, because Anduin brought a usurper to the battlefields. A usurper that Sylvanas made sure to kill. She's the one who shoots Kalia. So in the end, they have a little standoff. Sylvanas is not ready for a war quite yet. They're still gathering and manufacturing and all the good shit with Azeroth. She's not ready for it. So they retreat. And Kalia is taken back to Netherlight Temple. And a couple of days later, the Naru Sada in the Netherlight Temple, together with Alonso's Fall and Anduin, they resurrect her. Not as a Forsaken, not as a mindless scourge, but as something new entirely. A holy undead. I wish for once that the Alliance will play the part of the bad guys, purging Lordaeron from the undead, for example. No damage done in making a Forsaken flee to Kalimdor, secure the land, burning Teldrassil, that is war. Same though. But let's not forget that attacking Goblin miners is a very hostile activity. How dare you? How dare you? Perhaps the reason the Void wants Sylvanas dead because she's not submitting to their will. They showed her darkness, hoping to scare her where they wanted her, but now she's not where they want her, and now they want her dead. Is an interesting idea, but has there really changed a lot when it comes to Sylvanas in between, right? The internment camps happened after the Horde lost. The Horde mostly lost because of Orgrim decided to have half his forces run off to Gul'dan because Honor had him punished Gul'dan for dishonorable leaving his post. So yeah, Honor caused that defeat. I'm loving this discussion. I wasn't even so much making a comment about Honor, because you are absolutely right. Honor caused that defeat, yet I am still on Orgrim's side. Although, maybe just a couple of minutes later, considering how close they were to seizing Lordaeron. But I was more talking about Lok'tar Ogar, victory or death. If that's truly the motto of the Horde even back then how the hell were there survivors to put into internment camps? The twists. So Loremaster question, Galagrond was known as the biggest living thing dragon. We know where his corpse is. That being said, in Dragonblight, next to the paw of the Titans in the water, the skeleton of a dragon much bigger! Is there any lore info as to who or what this dragon was? As far as I'm aware, no. As far as I'm aware, that's just clutter the developers decided to put in the water. Holy Priest Forsaken could go Lightforged to not feel pain with holy powers. In theory, anything's possible, right? Goblins are the most innocent little creatures in the whole world. How could the Alliance do this? So rude. Howdy, Methuselah. As a boss of the Lich King says, the dead are outside the cycle, and as such, I think they cannot be corrupted. That's why they want her death. It's an interesting idea, though. Like, we know that the old gods feed on chaos. Perhaps if Sylvanas actually succeeds in bringing everybody in the undeath embrace, they take away her food. Yet at the same time, we do know that the Void Lords want to consume the universe until nothing is left. But maybe they need like energy or something like that. But why does it matter if one single planet is taken over by the undead? Does that really matter for the Forsaken or for the Void Lords? Maybe it's because they need chaos on Azeroth, and they need chaos in order to fulfill their corruption of Azeroth itself. That could be a thing. Huh. In what way are goblins innocent? Every way. Is it fair to expect Orcus customs in a no longer Orc-led Horde? That comes down again to development, I suppose. Development time and taking things to grow. When they made Sylvanas the War Chief in Legion, what we saw was a cinematic. Okay, Volten is dead. Who amongst you is going to help me avenge him? And everybody cheered. But there was no real development there. All we saw was Sylvanas step up to the plate. She went into Stormheim. And she went after her own goals. Getting Aegir under her control to get more Forsaken. There was no getting vengeance for Vol'jin. There was make sure that I stay alive forever. Next to getting the Aegis, of course, with oh god, not Hodir, Odin. And next to that, we took towers. And that was the only development that we saw of War Chief Sylvanas in Legion. And now in Battle for Azeroth, she is still the War Chief, yet we do not have storytelling to accompany that. A year has passed, yet what exactly has she done for the Horde to warrant, you know, respect? How do they look at Banshee Queen? Is it truly a new Horde, or is it still the old Horde? So is it fair to expect those same customs? No. But I would love to see a storyline. Anything to say like, okay, this is no longer the Horde that you knew. This is now Sylvanas' Horde. And how do the other leaders respond to that? That's what I want to see. Similar with Anduin instantly becoming the High King of the Alliance, you know? Are the undead still rotting away? They can replace the body parts. I did see a comment about their brains rotting away and the magic slowly deteriorating. And I believe that was old lore. So I'm not entirely sure if that's still a thing. But I know they can replace the body parts. Also, Sylvanas cares about the survival of her species. The Horde is just a means to an end. I was surprised that Odin or Aegir didn't deal with her after Stormheim. Yeah, but I think that comes down to the storyline that dropped out. Again, if you look at the Legion website and look up her description, there was something entirely different planned. So, Talia and Anduin, your thoughts? I would love that. Bolvar and Rin, marriage? Hell yeah. Hell yeah! Do you think she has stopped the unrest, or will the internal struggle continue? I guess the Forsaken Uprising stopped with that. Sounds special with the Holy Undead. Thank you for your answers. Did she stop the Uprising? I would love them to play further with the subject. Again, the idea of... Is there something worth dying for? Are the Forsaken meant to go on forever? Do they still want the true death? It's not something specifically isolated to the Desolate Council. If you go into Legion and you fight the Forsaken of Stormheim, they actually tell you, like, finally, it's over. So in that regard, it's not a new concept. Now, the Desolate Council has been wiped out, except for those that were already pissed off at the humans. What happened was they had a whole screening process. They met up on the battlefield. Shouldn't call it a battlefield. Anyways, they met up on the battlefield, and even at that point, some of the humans just turned away from the loved ones, and the loved ones went back to the Forsaken. And they were the ones who were truly desolate, right? These were the ones that Sylvanas trusted because, you know, they were hurt by their counterpart. But the rest of the Desolate Council is pretty much wiped out. But does that mean that no Forsaken want their final death anymore? No, I don't think that's the case. Isn't the Naru controlling the Draenei in Draenor like mind control? So that's why they all go light mode. We do not know. We do not know if it's a mind control. We do not know if it's... we simply don't know the details. As far as I'm aware, unless you have other Datamine dialogue, but otherwise we do not know. What are your thoughts on maybe Lily and Voss and Corona only pretending to be loyal to Sylvanas to get close to assassinate or spy on her, since they are part of the Uncrowned, who are known as Killer of Kings? It's an interesting concept for sure. I like that idea, but I don't think it's the case, considering they gave motivation to Lillian when it comes to that character that also goes into undeath and then figures out that it's not really nice to be undeath. It's not so much from a story development point, rather, why give such a motivation to Lillian Voss if you're just going to have it as a spy, right? Corona? Oh, I would love that shit. Just to make more sense out of it. Kalia, Arce's sister, became undead? Correct. Do you think Anduin would marry a girl woman from Kultiris to make stronger bonds? I mean, who is Anduin going to marry is definitely a thing that's been touched upon before the storm as well. I mean, you all know I still vote for Raffion, although they have had their falling outs. You know that Raffion is that bad boy you just keep going back to. But if I had to put my money on anyone right now, Kalia is too old in my opinion. Kalia is more like a Jaina figure. Valera is, you know, she knew Anduin as a kid. It would be a little bit creepy. It would be a little bit like, oh god, what is that called? Twilight. Where the wolf guy looks at the baby and he's like, yeah, that's gonna be my wife. So no. So Talia, in my opinion, is the best option right now. Speaking of Raffion, where the hell is he? Apparently there's like a dragon skill quest kind of thing. Varian called it a child, so they could work. Huh, alright. That's kind of cool. That's kind of cool, although, I don't know. Maybe it's just because I want Valera for myself. She would eat Anduin alive, though, let's be real. This can't be highlight if it's the whole stream, right? No, I'm recording at the same time, so that's... Thankfully, it will go on the YouTube all the same. Yeah, what started out as a video in which I want to talk Battle for Azeroth stuff, Before the Storm stuff just ended up in somewhat of a Q&A. Which isn't bad, don't get me wrong. But I do want to summarize my thoughts on Before the Storm before we end it. I enjoyed Before the Storm for what it was. I definitely did. I think when it comes to a dialogue book, and what I mean by dialogue book is one without a lot of action. For example, War of the Ancients is a lot of action, right? Illidan is a mix between action and dialogue, whereas Before the Storm is a lot like War Crimes. It is nothing but dialogue, with very minor action in it. I thought it was very well written. I was involved in the story. I loved the dialogues, I loved the conversations, I chuckled, and I was like, wow, what's gonna happen next? And I started rooting for it. For that, I really enjoyed it, but like I said, I was hoping for more. And I think a lot of us went in with higher expectations than it delivered. Which, of course, falls down to ourselves. We shouldn't make these expectations. But when you see all this stuff on the Battle for Azeroth beta, and you're like, oh, cool, will be explained, and we didn't get it. And, of course, I would love to see more development on the Horde side. It's much needed. I would love to see more time taken for other storylines besides the Forsaken-Human relation. I am very curious on how the Kalia resurrection is going to play out. I wonder what their aim is with it. Is it just to get a counterpart to Sylvanas, or how exactly it's going to play out? I wonder how the burning of Teldrassil is going to go down. And of course, I wonder how in the confinements of World of Warcraft, as in the factions are not going to go away. I wonder how it's all going to play out, and I cannot wait to find out. I really cannot. All in all, I hope it's... I really hope it's going to be that the burning of Teldrassil is going to be done by somebody on the Alliance side, and they fucking lie. That's what I hope. That's what I hope. You wanted me to explore the zone before we bow down? Sure. Will Kalia rot or fall, apart like the other undead? I don't know, her resurrection is not the same as the other undead. Her resurrection was done with the Naru's help and the light. She is not exactly forsaken. Windrunner music starts at the end of the stream. Aw, and the meeting between Human and Forsaken. Oh, it was so cute. With the mother and her 3 boys. Oh, it was so cute. Lord of the Clans is still better. In my opinion, it is. But then again, Lord of the Clans has been my favorite for so long now. Kalia were the last part of the Manifil Arthur's family? Maybe not. She did have a child. So maybe not. And I mean, if Kalia survived, why not Mommy dear, right? So what is this like pre-war campaign or something? Like what is the point of this? Are we just supposed to fight each other here? Did Gen and Sylvanas speak to each other in the book? Not that I'm aware. No. No, I'm pretty sure they stayed away from each other. If I'm wrong about that, please correct me. Why is Lord of the Clans your favorite? It seems like it's not that lore relevant. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me right now? Lord of the Clans establishes the story of Thrall. why, when he reformed the Horde, he was going to do it different. How he came to be. What his views were towards the orcs. You gotta imagine, for somebody that only played on the Alliance side and never really played Warcraft 3, you gotta imagine picking up Lord of the Glens and reading about mighty Thrall liberating himself from his enslavement, meeting up with the clan of his parents, with the war song, being different than the days of old, yet still wanting what was best for his people. Oh god, the final confrontation with the thing that I'm not gonna spoil for you, where I literally, when I was reading the book, I went to myself like, oh my god, that did not just happen, and it fucking happened. And I was like, no! Change it! No, it was so good. The almighty green pickle.
Horde forces have assembled another Azerite-powered war machine.
Oh shit.
Destroy it before they can use it to decimate Stromgarde.
Oh shit. Doom's Hall Dread Shield. Okay. You miss Goel? I miss Thrall, man. Goel was kind of shit. Hey, Dragon Aspects! Do you need some help with being Dragon Aspects? Cause I'm Thrall and I can help you. Is the in-game cinematic out for when Jaina initially returns to Galterus and gets sentenced by Kefren? No. Oh boy. Syndicate. Ah! Syndicate is leveled up, yo! At the end, Thrall snaps his fingers. Oh, with the Jaina comic with Kindy. You bastards, like, Miss Jaina, I don't feel so good. No. Not okay. Thank you very much, Marajara. Enjoy. Yeah, for those that are actually interested about Before the Storm as well, you want to pick it up. I think I'm going to actually try a audiobook for the first time, considering it's been narrated by Anduin Rin. I kind of need that in my life. I kind of just need to find out what it sounds like. I miss dragons, and I still want my dragon sworn. Hell yeah. Kalia was the daughter we're missing. It would be Enderwin's age by now. That would be something. Imagine a Rin Manafil marriage. Yes. That would be something. If she's still alive, of course. A Rin Manafil marriage. I mean, both options are perfectly fine in my opinion. Be it for Dragon or Manafil, I'm down with both. Anduin is narrating the book? Yeah, man. Well, sorry, I should be more accurate. It's not like actually Anduin sitting down in WoW. He's like, hello, listener. Today we're going to tell you a story. No, it's the voice actor of Anduin that narrates the book. Yes. Ooh, hello, bit of bark. Damn, you guys got upgraded. This zone has World Quest and a World Boss by the side that wins the Warfront, and the rares drop mounts and pets. Oh, dope. Turn WoW into a harem anime of Anduin and all the girls that want to marry him. Ooh. Well, it is interesting though, and I mentioned this on Discord as well, is that the subject of children and legacy is definitely touched upon in Before the Storm. Sylvanas seeing the Forsaken as her children, Anduin being pressured by Greymane to get an heir. Now, of course, it's completely understandable, like, the last King of Stormwind was evaporated and disenchanted by Gul'dan, so it's kind of smart to have a backup plan. But still, you know. It's, yeah, interesting. Wow, Kalia Hunter. Did you just unlock rewards for the chat? So many years later, the end of the Cataclysm still doesn't make sense. I mean, it doesn't even matter, mate. You remember when they said that the dragons can no longer reproduce? Well, a couple of years later, in an interview, they said, oh, you know, if we change our mind, we'll change our mind. You know, if it happens, it happens. We'll see. I like the zone though. It looks pretty. So there's going to be a reason actually tracking back to older zones then. That's kind of cool. Dragons just became celibate, that's all, you know. Sylvanas sees the Forsaken as her children. Ooh, I would actually have to... Hang on, I got Kobo open. I can actually check it out. But it's... maybe not so much children rather than she doesn't want them to abandon them. Hang on. Was it my own interpretation or not? Children. Children. Loathed by the children as her children. Oh, here we go. Kalia looked a bit confused, but Fall's eyes were bright with understanding. I think I see where you're going with this, my boy. She cares about the Forsaken, people she views as her children, and the Alliance cares about their fallen loved ones. Okay, so it's Alonsis that describes them as her children. The Forsaken are her people, her creations, her children in a way. We see mountains of evidence that she's trying to save them to find means to prolong their existence. Yeah, okay, so it's other people that actually interpret it as she's seeing the Forsaken as her children. My bad.